Alright, this is lesson 39 for 7th grade, and today we're talking about ratio and proportions. I have to apologize, I'm going to be going fairly quickly today. My projector is having issues and could probably turn off at any moment, but I think I have enough time to get through this, so we'll see what we can do here. Ratio and proportion, very big deal. We'll be spending a lot of time on it this year. So, main goals for today. We want to define what a proportion is. We want to learn how to set up a proportion. And this is probably more so a future goal, but we'll be getting there soon. And just a reminder that typically setting up the problem is the hardest part. But once you have everything set up, you're pretty much good to go. And our last thing, we want to determine different ways to solve with proportions. So, basically, we want to figure out what a proportion is, first of all. A proportion is a statement that two ratios are equal. Remember, a ratio could be a fraction. It could be, in this case, 16 to 20. If we wanted to use colons, things like that. Usually, with proportions, we set up two fractions that are equal to each other. We can determine if ratios are equal, and these two happen to be, which we will prove in a second, if we multiply the upper term of one ratio by the lower term of the other ratio. And we form a cross product. And if those cross products are equal, the ratios are equal. Okay? So what they did here is they took 5 times 16 and they got 80, and 20 times 4 and they got 80. So if these cross products are equal, cross and cross, if those are equal and we multiply, then we have equal ratios. One other way to see that this is true, if we were to reduce 16 over 20, we divide 16 by 4, we would get 4, and 20 divided by 4, we would get 5. So we do have equal fractions there. 4/5 is just the reduced version of 16 over 20. And that will always be the case with proportions. They're just different versions of the same fraction. So we're going to use cross product towards the end here today to help us solve some proportions. Alright. It says we can use these cross products to help us find missing terms and proportions. And we'll follow a two-step process. We're going to find the cross products for step 1. And then for step 2, we'll divide the known product by the known factor. Well, let's see what they're talking about here. So this one's already set up for us, but in the future we'll have to set this up on our own. It says Mia can read 12 pages in 20 minutes. At that rate, how many pages can she read in 30 minutes? And we can solve that by getting the answer. Well, we can get the answer by solving this proportion. You will find later on when we set these up, we want pages to be across from each other, and we want minutes to be across from each other. So 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And we're going to try to figure out what n is. Now remember, this is a proportion because we have two fractions or two ratios equal to each other. So we're going to take those cross products. Here is 20 times n. And this one is, we go this way, 30 times 12. So we got to figure out what that is. 12 times 30. 360. Alright, so here's what we have. These cross products should be equal. Okay? So we have 360 equal to 20 times n. Okay? And then our second step says we're going to divide the known product by the known factor. So we're going to divide by 20. So 360 divided by 20, we should get, let's see, 360 all over 20. 36 divided by 2 is 18. So, n, we go 18 should equal n. Alright, so she can read 18 pages in 30 minutes, is what we would say there. One other way we could have done this. And this won't work for every proportion, but it will for this one. We could have just gone ahead and reduced this one. We could see that 12 over 20 can be reduced if we divide by 4 for both of these. We'll get 3 over 5 equals n over 30, sorry. So we divided this one by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3, 20 divided by 4 is 5, and reduced it, and we set that equal to n over 30. Now, 5 times what gets us to 30? 5 times 6 is 30, so we do the same thing up here. 3 times 6 is 18. So n still would have been 18, and we would have got 18 pages in 30 minutes still. We won't always be able to do this reducing method, but we can if we notice it, okay? But one thing we can always do is do the cross products and then figure it out from there. So, if we look at this one, 15 over x equals 20 over 32. We could always do the cross product. We could do 15 times 32 and then divide by 20. What we like to do with the shortcut there is do cross multiply divide is what they call it. 15 times 32 and then divide by the one that's across from the letter diagonally. So we would do 15 times 32, and that would be equal to 20 times x. So we could set it up this way if we wanted to, and if we did this, 15 times 32, I'm just going to grab my calculator quick, save some time. 15 times 32 is 480. So we get 480 equal to 20x. And if we were to divide, we could do 480 divided by 20, or 48 divided by 2. X should be 24. However, we should realize that we could also reduce this fraction because they're both even numbers. So if I divide 20 by and 32 by the same number, looks like we could divide by 4. And instead we would get 5 over 8. And then our new proportion would be 15 over x equals 5 over 8. And to get from 5 to 15, you multiply by 3. To get from 8 to x, we would also multiply by 3. 8 times 3 is 24. We still would have got the same answer. Alright, last one here. We would see with this one, we could reduce this fraction right here to 3 over 2. It's not going to help us at all though because we have a decimal in our fraction. So this one, we can't really do this green method up here. It's not going to help us out. So for this one specifically, we would want to do a cross multiply divide. So we would do 6 times 1.2 and then divide by 4. X equals 6 times 1.2. 6 times 1.2 divided by 4. Now that's just the shortcut way. Remember, we could have set it up like this. 6 times 1.2 equals 4 times x. Either way, we should get the right answer. So 6 times 1.2, 7.2, and we would have to end up dividing by 4 anyway. That's why I have this one set up over here. We'll just leave that. But 7.2 divided by 4 is 1.8. So x should be 1.8. Alright, so that's cross multiply divide with proportions. This method will always work. This method will always work. This one does always work, but for instance, like I said, for this one, or this specific example, it wouldn't be as easy to reduce and figure out, okay, 1.2 times what gets me over here. It's a little harder to do it that way. So if you want to do your cross products and set those equal, that will always work. Shortcut is cross multiply divide. Okay, we can always multiply the two numbers diagonal from each other and divide by the one diagonal from the letter. We will talk about this more, and definitely more as the year goes on, and we will be setting these up too, so look forward to that.